This photo was taken just days before Billy the Kid supposedly died, but forensic experts say the corpse photos don't match. What if the most famous outlaws never died the way history claims? The Wild West wasn't just about gunfights and gold rushes, it was about secrets, buried truths. And deaths are so mysterious, they've haunted history for over a century. Stories say Billy the Kid was gunned down at 21, but what if he lived? That Doc Holliday coughed his last breath in bed, but what if his final words were stolen? That Butch Cassidy died in a Bolivian shootout, but what if he came back? Today, we're uncovering the shocking, twisted, and downright unbelievable truths behind how these 12 infamous outlaws really died. Because their endings? They don't match the history books and what movies told us. We're talking staged deaths, vanished bodies, censored last words and photos that were supposed to be destroyed. By the end of this video, you'll question everything you thought you knew. Because in the Wild West, nobody just died. They disappeared. They were erased. Or they got away. But before we continue, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support our growing community. We start from the last number. 12. Billy the Kid, the outlaw who cheated death. Fort Sumner, New Mexico, July 1881. A shadow moved through the darkness. Billy the Kid, just 21, crept into his friend Pete Maxwell's home, knife in hand, senses sharp. Then, bang! Sheriff Pat Garrett's bullet tore through the silence, striking Billy in the chest. The young outlaw crumpled to the floor. But was that really the end? Billy was no ordinary criminal. He'd escaped jail, outsmarted posses, and become a folk hero. Feared by some, admired by others. Yet no photos of his corpse were ever shown. Then, in 1948, an old man named Brushy Bill Roberts stepped forward in Texas, claiming he was Billy. He knew secrets only the kid would know. His mannerisms, his face, even his defiant glare, matched the legend. Was it a hoax? Or did Billy pull off his greatest escape yet? 11. Wild Bill Hickok, the poker game. That lied. Wild Bill Hickok, gunslinger, gambler, legend. But in 1876, it wasn't his bullet that wrote history. It was the one that killed him. Deadwood, South Dakota. A saloon, a poker table. Hickok held aces and eights, the dead man's hand. Then a shot from behind. Jack McCall was arrested, but what if he wasn't the real killer? Rumors swirled about a photo taken right after the murder. Some said it showed a shadowy figure lurking behind Wild Bill, a face never identified. That photo disappeared. Authorities claimed it was destroyed. Others whispered it was hidden. Years later, a scratched tintype surfaced. Hickok stares ahead, frozen in time. But behind him, a blur, a shape, a ghost? Was McCall just a patsy? Did the real assassin vanish into the crowd? Wild Bill lived by the gun. But his death? Maybe that was always meant to be a mystery. 10. Calamity Jane, the diary that vanished. She was the wildest woman of the West. Calamity Jane, a soldier, a nurse, a sharpshooter who refused to bow to any man. But by 1903, her luck ran out. Found weak and sick on a train in South Dakota, pneumonia and whiskey had finally taken their toll. She died alone, forgotten, her legend fading faster than her breath. But before the end, she whispered secrets. She swore she loved Wild Bill Hickok, that they were married, even had a child. Some believed her. Others called her a liar. She wrote it all in her diary, until most of it mysteriously vanished. Pages burned, others simply disappeared. Only one survived, mentioning Hickok, their daughter. And a missing photograph. Was it destroyed? Hidden? Did it ever exist? Her final wish was to rest beside Wild Bill. Today, she lies next to him in Mount Moriah Cemetery. But the truth? That might still be buried, somewhere between the ashes of her diary and a photograph the world was never meant to see. 9. Jesse James, the outlaw who refused to die. Jesse James, bandit, rebel, American nightmare. For over a decade, he robbed banks and trains, a ghost who slipped through every trap. To some, a cold-blooded killer. To others, a Southern avenger, striking back after the Civil War. Then, in 1882, betrayal came from within. While adjusting a picture on the wall, his own gang member, Robert Ford, shot him in the back. Ford collected the reward, and to prove Jesse was dead, they took a photo of his body in a coffin. That photo still exists. But was it really him? Even then, people doubted. The face in the coffin didn't look like Jesse. Some claimed Ford staged it, that Jesse paid him off and vanished. Over the years, multiple men came forward, swearing they were the real Jesse James. One even went to court, insisting the man in the coffin was a decoy. Historians say Jesse died that day, but legends don't die so easily. He's buried in Missouri. Or is he? 8. Bass Reeves. The man who outlawed the outlaws. Bass Reeves wasn't an outlaw. He hunted them. Born into slavery, he became one of the greatest lawmen the West ever saw. A U.S. deputy marshal who arrested over 3,000 criminals and killed 14 men in self-defense, all without ever taking a bullet himself. Yet his story was nearly erased from history. Why? Because the West's legends were written by those who wanted heroes to look a certain way. But Reeves was real, relentless, and unmatched. So why isn't he as famous as Wyatt Earp or Billy the Kid? Maybe because the truth is harder to swallow, that the most feared man in the West wasn't an outlaw, but the law itself. One of the first black U.S. Marshals west of the Mississippi, Bass Reeves made over 3,000 arrests, outsmarted outlaws with disguises, and rode alone into territory where others feared to go. Some whisper he was the real-life Lone Ranger, except his story was almost scrubbed from history. After 30 years of service, Reeves died peacefully in 1910. But the real mystery? What happened next? His name vanished from records. Marshal files disappeared. Only one confirmed photo of him survives, faded, scratched, nearly lost to time. Why was a man this legendary erased? Was it racism, politics, or just the West's refusal to let a black lawman stand among its white heroes? That lone photo is all we have, a ghost of a man who refused to be one. 6. John Wesley Hardin, the killer who wouldn't stay dead. John Wesley Hardin didn't just kill men, he collected them, claimed over 20 murders, some say more, shot his first man at 15, a cold, calculating killer who studied law in prison and became a lawyer, until a bullet cut him down in an El Paso saloon in 1895. But here's the twist. A jailhouse photo of Hardin survived, or at least part of it did. The image was scratched out, nearly destroyed. Why? Shame? Revenge? Or did someone want to erase the face of a man who terrified the West? Look closely. The damage can't hide his stare, defiant, even in defeat. Hardin's buried in Concordia Cemetery, but his photo? It refuses to die. 5. Doc Holliday, the dying man who lived faster than anyone. Doc Holliday wasn't just a gunslinger, he was a paradox. A dentist, a gambler, a tuberculosis-ridden outlaw who cheated death longer than anyone expected. Most know him from the gunfight at the OK Corral, but Holliday's real story was a race against time. He knew TB would kill him, so he lived like a man with nothing to lose, drinking, fighting, drifting from town to town. In 1887, at just 36 years old, he finally lost that race, dying in a Glenwood Springs sanitarium. But was it really tuberculosis that took him? Some say his enemies waited for the disease to finish what bullets couldn't. Others claim his last words were a coughing laugh, like death was just another game of poker. Holliday's legend? Still unbeaten. He died quietly, too quietly for a man who lived like a wildfire. Tuberculosis finally claimed Doc Holliday in 1887, leaving him pale and wasted in a Glenwood Springs sanitarium. But the real mystery? His last words. According to records, he spoke something profound, but the official photo caption was altered, his final utterance scrubbed from history. Was it a curse, a confession, or something so dangerous it had to be erased? The only surviving photo shows a hollow-cheeked Holiday, eyes still sharp. A man who cheated death 100 times, only to have his last breath stolen by time. He rests in Glenwood Springs Cemetery now. But what he said in those final moments? That secret died with him. 4. Butch Cassidy, the outlaw who came back from the dead? Butch Cassidy didn't just rob trains, he toyed with history itself. In 1908, Bolivian soldiers claimed they gunned him and Sundance down in a hail of bullets, but no bodies were ever confirmed. Then, in 1925, his sister Lula swore Butch, real name Robert Leroy Parker, visited their Utah family. Their aging father reportedly gasped, "Leroy, is that you?" Blurry photos of an old man surfaced, said to be Cassidy. Historians scoffed. But without a corpse, how do you bury a legend? Officially, he died in Bolivia. Unofficially, the West's greatest trickster might have pulled one last job, disappearing into the American night. 3. Sundance Kid, the ghost of the Wild Bunch. Sundance didn't just die, he evaporated. Trapped in Bolivia with Butch in 1908, he was presumed shot dead. But unlike Cassidy, no sister came forward, no photos emerged. Just silence. Some say he fell in that Bolivian shootout. Others insist he slipped away, starting fresh under a new name. No wanted posters, no gravesite, just a void where a legend should be. While Butch's myth grew, Sundance became something stranger, a shadow without a story. The ultimate outlaw exit, not with a bang, but with a whisper. 2. Belle Starr, the bandit queen's unfinished ballad. Velvet dresses, a feathered hat, a pistol tucked beneath her skirts. Belle Starr didn't need to shout, her reputation did the screaming for her. She ruled outlaw gangs with charm and cunning, crafting her image as carefully as her crimes. Then, in 1889, she was ambushed, shot twice in the back on a muddy Oklahoma road. Murdered or sacrificed? Rumors swirled. A disgruntled lover? A betrayed accomplice? Even her own son was suspected, but the killer was never convicted. Belle's grave bears the epitaph she chose. Shed not for her the bitter tear. A poetic end for a woman who scripted her own legend. Yet the truth of her death? Still buried in the red Oklahoma dirt. Even her biological son, Eddie Reed, rumored to resent her harsh control. Yet no one was ever convicted. Then a mysterious tintype surfaced, believed to be one of her last photos. Her diaries? Gutted. Pages torn out, passages about secret affairs, betrayals, and hidden enemies lost to time. Belle Starr died as she lived, shrouded in secrets. Was it revenge, a lover's quarrel, or did she know too much about the wrong men? Her tombstone reads, "Shed not for her the bitter tear." But the real epitaph? Here lies a mystery. 1. Wyatt Earp, the man who rewrote his own legend. Wyatt Earp wasn't just a lawman, he was Hollywood's first action hero. Yes, he stood tall at the OK Corral, but before that, gambler, bounty hunter, sometimes outlaw. He danced on both sides of the law, then spun his past into gold when the West became myth. By the 1920s, Earp was in Los Angeles, consulting on Western films, shaping how the world saw cowboys. John Wayne modeled his swagger after him. Then, in 1929, Earp died peacefully in his bed, and his wife Josephine set fire to his past. Letters, diaries, damning photos, all burned. Was she protecting his legacy, or hiding the real Wyatt, a man far more complicated than the white hat hero he'd sold to Hollywood? Only a handful of photos survive. The rest? Ashes. The truth died with him. But the legend? That's forever. Tom Horn, the hangman's noose that didn't fit. Tom Horn was the West's most feared gun for hire. Army scout, Pinkerton detective, accused assassin. On November 20th, 1903, the noose snapped tight around Tom Horn's neck, but the mystery of his case only grew. Some saw it as frontier justice. Others called it a rigged trial meant to silence a dangerous man. The evidence was shaky at best. A questionable confession, extracted while drunk. No murder weapon ever found. No eyewitnesses to the crime. Yet the powerful cattle interests of Wyoming needed someone to pay for the killing. Horn, a man who knew too many secrets, made the perfect target. This haunting photo shows him in his cell, calmly braiding horsehair rope like a man preparing for his own execution. Resigned, defiant, still dangerous. Was he truly guilty, or was he sacrificed to protect bigger names? His final words, "It's a good day for hanging," still echo through Western history, a reminder that justice wasn't always just in the Old West. These 12 Western icons didn't just live remarkable lives, they left behind deaths shrouded in mystery. The missing body of Billy the Kid. Bass Reeves's erased legacy, Doc Holliday's censored last words, the vanishing of Butch and Sundance, Belle Starr's unsolved murder, Wyatt Earp's carefully crafted legend, Tom Horn's questionable conviction. Why do these stories still fascinate us? Because the Wild West was never just black and white. Every hero had shadows, every outlaw had reasons, and every death left unanswered questions. So did justice ever really come for these outlaws? Or did the West just write the endings it wanted us to believe? Billy the Kid's missing corpse. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support our growing community. See you in the next video.